When you're not able to connect to your database, if you get the error connecting to the database error with WordPress, the first step you want to do is look and compare the values of the actual database with what's set up in wp-config. Now, to do that, what you want to do is just get the values for your database. You're going to need the database name, database username, password, and host name. Well, if you're working with something like with Cpanel, the host name will be localhost in most cases. And if you aren't sure, you just contact your hosting provider to find out. But in most cases, it'll be localhost. So that puts host name out of the way. But now what you want to do is find out the database name and then username and password. So what you do is you log into your control panel, go down to databases, choose MySQL databases, and then just locate the name of your database in the list. Now, your control panel username will be at the beginning with an underscore. So keep that in mind because you're going to have to put that in when you're editing the WP config file. And then whatever you chose for the database name will show up there. And it should be obvious, like based on the name for the website that you're working with. But if you did the automatic install, it might not be obvious. I'll explain how to check that in a minute. Now what you want to do is you want to look when you see the database that you want to work with, you click on users next to that and just make sure that all privileges are selected, and then click make changes if you made any changes there. Now, as for the user, a lot of times you won't really know the password. So what you can do, you can safely, as long as the user is not being used for any other databases, you can safely delete the user or just simply create a new one. And create a new one, give it a password. You can use the password generator, and then add that new user to the to your existing database, and just make note of the username that you created. And again, it's going to be prepended with your control panel username with the underscore. So make note of the username and the password, and of course the database name. And then, as I was saying, localhost will most likely be the host name for the database, and that'll be in there by default for WordPress. But if you're working with a host like GoDaddy, for example, you just go into your account manager, click web hosting, and launch the web hosting that you're working with. And then in the databases section, click MySQL, and from your list of databases, click actions, and then click details. And then your database host name displays in the host name field. So it's going to be different for GoDaddy, and some other hosts are different too. So just check with your host exactly how to find the host name for your databases. Now, as far as if you're not sure which database belongs to your WordPress install, you can simply go to phpMyAdmin, and when you're in there, you can let's do it. We'll take a look at an existing database here, for example, and then go to, okay, I had to pause the video because I just had to remember exactly how to do it. So you choose the database that you're going to be working with, and then open up the options table. And in the options table, you'll see the names of the site, the blog name that you're working with. So then it'll be obvious to you which database belongs to which website. And with that information, you can go back in and then go back to MySQL databases, and then you'll know what the database name is because you found it in phpMyAdmin, and then you can create a new user to attach with all privileges attached to that database. So then you'll be armed with all the information necessary for the WP config file. So initially you'll have a WP-config sample file, and you just remove sample, and this will be where you store the information for the database. So what you're going to want to do is look for the DB name section right here where it's defined. I'll make this a little bit smaller. and that's where you'll plug in the database name right within these right within the single quotes. That's where it has to go, the database name. So in my case, it might be KLOCK75_AF, depending on the site that I'm working with. And then same thing with the username. That'll go right within the single quotes here. And of course the password. And then the host name. So in most cases, like I said, it would be localhost, but for GoDaddy, it would be something different. And this is usually where the problem arises, like the values that exist here are incorrect. So it could be that your host changed the fact that it might have changed the database host, which is possible, or something got corrupt with the database, but we'll talk about that after. So this in general, if you follow these steps to just compare and make sure that these values are proper, all 4 of these values, and this one's most likely going to be the problem in most cases, but anyway, just make sure these 4 values are correct compared to what you have set up on your hosting account, and that should resolve the issue 9 times out of 10.